Hi, we are here today with musician, storyteller, historian, television host, and entertainer Dave Holt. David has been seen on Hee Haw, Nashville Now, and the Grand Ole Opry. Currently, he is a television host on PBS,
right.
And he is also a multi-instrumentalist, four-time Grammy Award winner. So David, tell us how you got started playing music. What got you interested in it?
You know, as a kid, I loved percussion, and I started taking drum lessons at 14 and playing in rock and roll bands.
Cool.
But when I was 21, I got jumped just out of random act of violence and beat up and left for dead. And recovering from that at 21 years old, I realized that rock and roll was pretty shallow comparatively, and I fell in love with cowboy music.
Cool.
And I went to see the very first cowboy singer ever to record, Carl Sprague. And he showed me how to play the harmonica, and I realized, this is great, I can learn from these old guys. So from that, I moved to North Carolina and began learning the old-time traditional mountain music. I've got to tell you, I've been racking my brain. I've got to find a way out. I'm getting tired of this continual rain. A change is coming, no doubt. It's been a too long time with no peace of mind, and I'm ready for the times to get better.
David, currently you are playing with Doc Watson. Tell us about that, some experiences you've had with him.
We started playing together in 1998. I've been doing almost all of his shows since then, and that's a thrill for me because he's my hero from the time I was in high school. So to be doing that at this part of my career is just great. He's 88 years old now, and we're still on the road. It's a great thing, and playing with Doc is always a challenge because one, he pushes you musically, and his songs always have something odd in them. There's always a skip beat or an extra chord or just something you don't know. And so if he wants you to take the solo, he goes like this. You're playing along top speed, and he goes, that's it, you know, just, because you can't look at each other and have signals. You either say, you know, how do you feel about it, son? Or just, and you take it. So you got to really be on your toes, which is fun. I love it. I love it. It's one of the great things of my life.
Well, David, what TV shows are you doing right now?
I'm doing a show that I've been doing for 30 years in North Carolina, PBS, called Folkways, and those are all downloadable at iTunes. They're for free. You know, you can go to David Holt Podcast, download all of them. Doing a show called Great Scenic Railway Journeys, where we go see scenic railroads all around the country and the world, actually. And I've been doing some new CDs. Just came out with the 25th anniversary edition of Reelin' Rock, which is the first record that I did with Doc and Merle, and the last record that Merle Watson did, and it's a great CD, so I'm pleased about that. And Doc has signed a whole bunch of them, so they're individually signed. And then I'm working on it with a new band called Deep River Rising, and that's Brian Sutton, me, and T. Michael Coleman. And so we're doing some of the early Doc material and great songs from Western North Carolina. That's going to be a really super group.
Oh, yeah.
I want to show you a little lick on the banjo in the G tuning, just hammering on basically the D7th chord, each note. And you can also take it up to the 7th fret and hammer it on the D chord. So you might get something like this. Take that night train to Memphis, take that night train to Memphis, and when you arrive at the station, that little ending lick there.
Well, David, you are an amazing, talented storyteller, and I understand that you incorporate that into your shows. Tell us about that.
Right, I'm doing mostly music these days, but I still am doing such an old style of music that you kind of have to set it up in context and put it in context for people. So I tell stories about some of the old folks I learned from. In fact, I was just out here performing in Murfreesboro and telling about Inez Chandler, who was an old ballad singer I learned a lot of songs from, and she was always getting words mixed up, and I loved it. I'd come over and she'd say, "David, would you like a cup of coffee?" I said, "Sure, Inez." She said, "Only got that old decapitated kind." I said, "That's all right, I don't like coffee with a head on it anyway." So I just like try to tell little stories and set up some context for people to understand where the music's coming from.
Bard Ray from Sodom, North Carolina. He had a very simple philosophy of life. He said, "Some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue." Aunt Zipporah Rice. When I took this picture, she was 105 years old. She was always saying things that made you stop and think, like, "Be good to your friends. Without them, you'd be a total stranger." Or, "Time may be a great healer, but honey, it ain't no beauty specialist."
Well, David, you had a role in the film "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" Tell us about that experience and also the impact that that film had on pop culture.
It was huge, wasn't it? It was huge for me, too, because I had been on Hee Haw about 50 times. I had Fire on the Mountain on the Nashville Network, 95 half hours of shows. And that 15 seconds I was on that movie got so much more energy from people. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it really lifted people's interest in traditional music at that point, and then the dust kind of settled, and those who really were interested are still doing it. I mean, I see a lot of young people that I think it started off being interested in music because of that movie. I just was at a fiddlers convention the other day, and there were 3 11-year-old clawhammer banjo players, which is really rare, and they were great. So, you know, I think it's still we're still feeling the influence of it. This is my first instrument. We have 5 generations of bones players in my family, so here's a little bit of it.
Well, David, tell us about some of the people that have influenced you personally in your career.
You know, the old cowboy singer I mentioned, Carl Spragg, was very influential, made me realize that you can go out and visit these people. Certainly Ralph Stanley, Doc Watson was a huge influence. Wade Maynor was a great friend of mine. He's still alive at 104. All these were professional old-time musicians. Grandpa Jones was a good friend of mine and taught me a lot. Roy Acuff was very influential to me. Even Chet Atkins. Chet Atkins said to me, "Figure out where the bad notes are on the guitar and stay off of them."
Okay, good
and
advice.
so I've put a lot of the information and pictures that I've taken about these people that were my mentors on my website at davidholt.com. So people should check that out because I love photography as well as music. So take a look at those. Yeah. I want to show you a little lick that used within the C chord. I've got the capo on the 4th fret, but I'm going to call it a C chord. So it sounds like this. Traveling man, you must have been a traveling man. That little lick right there. You start on the open, we'll call it the E string, and just go right up the scale, just every fret. But the tricky part is back and forth with your thumb pick. There's the hard part. So in the context of the song, it sounds like this. Traveling man, he must have been a traveling man. Traveling, rambling man, he was the swiftest in the land. Gambling, rambling Joe, they knowed him in every town. He wouldn't stay put, he wouldn't give up, I bet he never settled down.
Well, David, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we were able to catch you in the middle of all of your busy life, all the things that you're doing, and to come and talk to us. It's been great.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.